First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
That is a pretty awesome shot right there because it is very nice weather outside. Hello, everyone. I am Greg Nibbler. Thanks for joining us. This is Fox 12 Now, part of Fox 12 Oregon, live at our digital desk here in the newsroom, a very busy newsroom, a lot going on today, but you may be outside watching this on your phone right now. And if that's the case, awesome. That's great to do because it is very nice outside. And that's what we're going to be talking about is the weather. Is this going to last? What's going to happen this weekend? What else is going on? And El Nino. We're going to get into El Nino at some point. And to do all of this, of course, we are joined by the one and only Mr. Mark Nelson. Mark, hello.
Hey, good afternoon, Greg. It is nice. You know what?
Seriously.
Look, can you see this? Maybe you can see. We actually have the temperature to the 10th of a degree here in the Weather Center.
Oh.
73.2. Wouldn't you say that's just perfect?
I would say that is about perfect right there.
Yeah, I just came in and it was like fantastic.
I can do up to 85 can still work for me too sometimes, but
Sure.
But yeah, this is about perfect outside. So I know there's a lot going on, and I wanted you to kind of walk us through
Sure.
because there's some other things that are happening besides the heat.
That's right. Let's talk about thunderstorms. You want to talk about thunderstorms?
Yep.
I think we should.
Let's do it.
We can go right to the graphic
Thunderstorms.
here. And you see, if we just look at the big picture of the state, radar, and you can see scattered thunderstorms about. We did expect thunderstorms to pop up over and east of the Cascades, and that's where they are right now. Now, this time of the year, sometimes if the wind patterns are just right, the thunderstorms can come down into the lowlands. Our models say they shouldn't this afternoon. So that's what we're counting on. If you look to the east, you see the big towering clouds. But you can see thunderstorms just northeast of Sweet Home, around Detroit Lake. And then farther north, we did in the last half hour. Does it show up here? Northeast of Sandy. Okay, this is over Mount Hood National Forest. See those right there? So yeah, you've been hearing rumbling in Brightwood and Welches and Wemme. But for now, we're not seeing any rain down here in the lowlands. So we think that's probably the case tonight. But there is the outside chance something pops up. But that's why we have a newscast at 4 o'clock and 5 and 6 o'clock. We'll be all over that.
That's why we get to take a look at all of those things.
Otherwise, tomorrow looks just like today. Greg, looks great. We're going to have sunshine and probably no thunderstorms tomorrow. Not probably, there won't be any thunderstorms tomorrow. So tomorrow's going to be just like today, perfection, like 77, 78 degrees. And then things are going up.
And then it goes crazy. Well, I wanted to ask about thunderstorms really quick because
Sure.
I feel like we don't get them very often here, or at least it doesn't seem like it. And,
We don't.
And earlier this week there were those huge ones that were going on. I think that was this week. Maybe it was,
what day is today? Wednesday was Monday.
Yeah, Monday. Yeah.
Last Thursday, remember some people woke up to lightning on Thursday morning.
Yeah. So what is that typically something that we get during May, or is this just an anomaly?
Spring and summer is our season west of the Cascades.
Okay.
We only average something like 8 or 10 thunderstorms a year here. And I don't have the graphic in front of me, but we have a graphic, I've used it on the air before, that shows the West Coast has the fewest thunderstorms of any part of the USA.
Wow.
Have you ever been to Disney World?
Not Disney World, no.
How about Baton Rouge? Have you ever hung
Yes.
out late nights on Bourbon Street?
Yes.
Or not Baton Rouge, New Orleans.
Yeah, both of those.
Really
yes.
sweaty, right?
Yes,
Hot and
very.
sweaty in the summer, and they have
so sweaty.
thunderstorms a lot in the summertime there, and that's because there's a lot of moisture from the Gulf of Mexico, the Atlantic. Those are warm oceans, and there's a lot of lifting in the summertime. Well, for us, when you go in the ocean, is it cold or warm?
Is it when we go to the ocean? Oh, it's cold.
Yeah, it's cold.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be like I'm teaching the
No.
third graders here.
No,
but
no,
I, always say
I
this
don't
to
mind at all.
kids. I
Treat
always
me
say
like a
this.
third grader.
Yeah.
That is fine.
No, that's okay. So we have a cold ocean, so we don't get, it's a very stable atmosphere in the warm season. So near the ocean, basically, the air wants to rise. It's not going to rise if it's cold down below, kind of like the cold air stays in the freezers, in the stores. And so that's why we don't get many thunderstorms. The farther you get away from the coastline, as you head into eastern and central Oregon, you get more thunderstorms in the summer. By the time you get to Idaho and the Rockies, there's quite a few thunderstorms. So that's why we don't get many here.
That's why it's so rare. Yeah, because people are always talking about that. When you do hear any kind of thunder or you get a thunderstorm, it's just...
They say it never happens here. Well, it does happen, but it's rare.
It does happen, but rare. But we might be getting some of that today. So
especially near the Cascades. And we're watching Monday and Tuesday. We'll see if something pops up Monday and Tuesday. Some models have it, some don't. So we're watching that closely.
Okay. Well, if you hear it, then you heard it here first. So something else, though, coming up with the weather. And I don't know if you want me to pull up your graphic. You just let me
please
know.
do. I've got it ready to go.
All right.
Yeah.
I've got it here. And again, for everybody watching, this is live, and we're pressing buttons, and sometimes I might press the wrong button, but I got it right this time.
Hottest May days here. So Portland weather records at the airport go back to 1940. So how many times have we hit 95 or higher? Only 5 times in the month of May.
Really?
So it's pretty rare to hit 95, but we're thinking that's not going to happen. We don't think it's going to be that hot. We think it'll be about the same or just slightly warmer, hotter than what we had. Was it the last week of April? We hit 89 in Portland. So just a notch or two warmer than that. Our models have backed off a little bit, so that's good news, right?
Yeah, that is.
Yeah. And in fact, most 90-degree days in May, so it's not unusual to have like one 90-degree day in May here. Our average high is 69, right? So that's 20 degrees above average. And those years right there, you see 6 years where we had 2 days in the month of May that hit 90. But then 3 days, we have 3 days that hit 90? That's pretty rare. That's only happened twice. That may or may not happen this time around. It's possible we get cloud cover on Monday, we stay in the 80s. No one's going to complain about that, right?
Right.
And we've never had 4 days at or above 90. Right now, we don't see that coming up. In fact, here's what we're forecasting, and you can find this all on the app, of course, our 7-day forecast. But this just kind of shows you the up and down motion. Notice we've kind of backed off a little bit on, I think, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So that's reasonable. I mean, this isn't, you've lived here quite a while.
Yes.
90 or so. And then you notice the records. So we could beat a record on Sunday, maybe not Monday. We'll see. I think we'll have at least one record in here. And the thing I don't have here is the overnight lows will be pretty warm, getting up into the low 60s, and that's pretty unusual. If we get cloud cover, that keeps us warmer at night. So that might happen Sunday night or Monday night.
Okay.
So it's going to be hot. It's kind of on the edge of heat wave definition here. We typically consider a heat wave here. It's not official, but it gets kind of thrown around is at 3 days at or above 90 in Portland as a heat wave, consecutive days. So you can see we're kind of on the edge of that. We'll see if we actually end up doing that in case it stays in the 80s Monday. But again, there's no official definition of a heat wave here.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was going to ask actually, if there is one that that can be actually used, but there isn't, so it's just.
How about if we call it the traditional definition of a heat wave? Not
Okay.
official, because you go to Phoenix or you even go to Boise, Idaho, or Medford, and it's like it's got to be more than 3 days above 90 degrees to call it a heat wave. In Seattle, heat wave would be what, 85?
Right.
Well, right. Seems like it. Yeah. So that's the plan. So it's going to get hot. Luckily, on those 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, we're going to have a dry east wind, so it'll be low humidity. Just yesterday, Pete Ferryman over at that news desk over there said,
yeah,
there's going to be a humid heat wave, not Saturday and Sunday. It looks really dry, so that'll be good. So that means it'll be 50s to low 60s in the morning, noontime like 78, getting close to 80, and then it's actually hot from like 1 to 7 p.m.
Okay, yeah, but not the humidity, not the sweating as much.
No,
with all that
definitely
stuff.
not.
That is great.
That's good.
You were talking about Baton Rouge. I once was in Savannah for a week in August, and that was terrible.
That is sweaty. You're just dripping as soon as you step out of the air conditioning.
Yeah, no, it was not good. It was like outdoor work mixing activities and things like that. I'm like, nobody's happy here.
This is perfect in the summertime here because most of the time it's dry.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Well, something I want to ask about that just before we get into the, I know we're going to talk about El Nino and all of that.
You can't go wrong with a lot of El Nino talk, right?
We have to do some El Nino talk. But, with this sudden warming, we had it feels like anyway, and I could be completely wrong on this with the actual statistics, but it feels like it was such a wet fall and winter, so dreary, but maybe that's just because, I had the mindset it's been going like that for so long. Was it more than normal?
No, winter rainfall was about normal.
Really? Okay.
It was pretty normal. We had wet periods. I mean,
right.
We all forget November, we had a 2-week dry spell in the middle of the month. Half of November was dry. I'd forgotten about that. I think we had some dry stretches in December and January, but January was pretty wet. And then, of course, April really cemented things. It was just wet, like constantly until the last few days, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it was not dramatically wetter than normal. No, that is winter and early spring here. We tend to be wet, but it was extra cold in March and April, though, unusually cold.
Okay, so maybe that's what I was thinking about.
That's what you're thinking of. The combo of the unusual cold plus all the gray days with rain in April. That really sets people off. That's a trigger.
Yeah, and I think I was doing the typical Northwest thing. Complain when it's raining too much or it's cold, and then it gets hot, and then
you complain about it being too hot.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And then say you'll never complain about the rain again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's
all
normal.
of that.
You're perfectly normal.
All right, I'm fitting in. Okay, let's talk about this going forward, though. We have this not a heat wave necessarily, but whatever. It's warm right now.
Yeah.
What does this play into the factors for El Nino, or what are we looking at with that?
Well, we know next week. I'm just looking through next week. Even though we cool off next week, we may only go down into the 80s for a bunch of days, which is still way above normal. So we're clearly starting now. We're in this mainly dry and very warm period, which is pretty unusual for May. But we're going to stay real warm next week.
So it is going to be warm.
Beyond our 7-day forecast. Yeah, I think we'll stay warm at least through a week from, what's today, Wednesday? A week from Friday. What's that, the 15th, 16th, about the 19th, 18th.
Nice.
Yeah,
okay,
and we don't know, probably your next question is, what about this summer? Does this mean it's going to be a hot summer, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there's no good correlation.
It's like you've done this before.
Yeah, we're going to talk about El Nino coming up, but there's no good correlation between El Nino and summers here, I don't think. I've never seen anything that really sticks out that says, hey, we have an El Nino during the summer, which is actually only getting going anyway. That doesn't necessarily mean it'll be a hot summer. But as we know, summers have been warming up dramatically here the last 12 years or so.
Yeah.
So it would be nice to have a cooler than normal summer.
Yeah, I definitely don't want the 2 years ago the 116 or whatever that was.
Yeah, that was
like to avoid
ridiculous
that.
and historic.
Yes. But we don't know. This doesn't necessarily pertain to anything for this summer, so we don't know exactly yet. All right, so going on here and talking about this El Nino, can you give everybody just a recap again on
sure.
what it is?
So there's an El Nino watch this is a global watch by NOAA, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. They say there's a good chance of El Nino developing this winter, and you're thinking, what does that mean for me? Well, what does it mean for one, and what does it mean for me? It's a warming of the tropical Pacific Ocean. Those are actually current, the anomaly of water temperature in the Pacific. And notice it is becoming warmer than normal already. It's a warming of the tropical Pacific, and once again, you're thinking, well, why would I care what it's doing in Tahiti or what it's doing off the Galapagos Islands, right? You don't live there. But because it's such a large area of warm water, there's a lot of energy there. The weather effects ripple out across the globe in different ways. I think Australia tends to have droughts in these years. Parts of the USA tend to be warmer and colder. I'll get to that in a moment. But the last 3 winters, we were in La Nina conditions. Oh, notice I'm concentrating on winter here because the effects in summer just don't seem very pronounced. There's not a good correlation with, hotter or colder. So when we talk about El Nino and La Nina, we tend to think, okay, so what's coming up like next winter? So we're kind of jumping the tion here, but I just thought it'd be fun to talk about.
Yeah, definitely.
And most models are implying at least a moderate event by next winter.
Okay.
But by that I mean could it just be a weak El Nino where it's a borderline El Nino, or is it a strong El Nino? Most models are saying moderate at least. All right, so that's maybe where we're headed. This is all very preliminary because models do tend to have forecast issues. It's actually called something, Greg. It's called the spring forecast barrier.
Ooh.
With yeah, you like that?
I
barrier.
do.
With the forecast models, with the seasonal forecasting with El Nino and La Nina, they tend to have issues from like March through about June. Usually by June or July, then it's like, okay, they agree there's going to be an El Nino.
What is it that changes then?
That's a good question. I don't know the details of that, but it's just well known. It's so well known it has a name and a phrase, the spring forecast barrier. Wow. I had no idea about that. Yeah. So in a typical El Nino winter, in a typical winter, we just have this wavy jet stream. We draw this little jet stream on TV. It goes up and we get a little warmer. It goes down, we get a little cooler. All right. But in El Nino winters, what happens is we tend to see a much stronger southern jet develop. The jet often splits farther offshore, and we get a stronger southern jet. And not in every El Nino, but in many El Nino winters, California tends to be wetter than average. And in these years, we often see more of a splitting of the jet stream with high pressure kind of over Western Canada. When that happens, you can kind of guess if there's high pressure. Okay, so this is back to my 1990s. I had a producer that said, okay, I get it. H, high pressure, is good and dry, and L is low pressure and it's rainy and bad. Okay, so in this case, the H is sinking air, and so we tend to be drier in Western Canada and the northwestern part of the United States. This is like the whole winter averaged out, Greg, okay? So you can't say, okay, we're December 20th through the 25th, that's gonna be dry. No. Right. It's like averaged out. That said, every El Nino winter is different. Just a couple big qualifiers here. Every El Nino is different. Some follow this pattern, some do not. And that's only one thing that determines what kind of winter weather we're gonna have. There's other things going on in the atmosphere as well. But if we take all this into account, there's a decent chance that we may have a milder than normal winter ahead. Our last 2 El Nino winters were quite mild. Where we have a lot of rainy days in 50s instead of rainy days in 40s. I guess that would be the easiest way to describe that. But here's the biggie. And this usually becomes a bigger issue in the fall when you start seeing like forecasts for the winter come out. Like, what's it going to be like this winter? Everybody always asks in September and October. At that point, when you hear, oh, El Nino means a warmer and drier winter than normal. Well, in a warmer and drier winter, you can have a 4-day horrific ice storm because a little bit of cold air makes it in through the gorge or comes down from the northeast, and then we resume the warm, dry stuff. I've seen that happen in 98. We had that where we had a big snowstorm in the middle of a massive El Nino winter. I remember shoveling the snow 2 days later, it was 50 degrees. So we can still get a big event, but we just don't tend to get a lot. I got one more for you.
Ooh, yeah, let's see it.
I got more. I got the snowflake graphic. You can never go wrong with snowflake graphics.
That is a great graphic.
Warm weather coming up. So just Portland snow in the last few El Nino winters. There are decent odds of seeing at least some snow. So El Nino winters do not mean no snow. Okay. A whole bunch of numbers for you there. You can just see the last 10 El Nino winters. Notice a lot of them had some snow. The last one only had a brief March snowfall. That was when everything was falling apart. It was a Saturday in March 2020. But the year before, somehow we got a bunch of snow in February. So the point is, in general, probably best guess is we have probably a warmer than normal winter coming up next year, assuming El Nino is really going to happen. But who knows if we get snow or not as of now. The La Nina winters, which we've had the last 3 years, they tend to be more consistently cooler and wetter, which does increase the chance for snow at low elevations.
Okay. This is good to know, and also looking at these years too for the different El Ninos. So it seems to be like every 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, we haven't had as many El Ninos as La Ninas the last 20 years, which is interesting.
What does that mean? Or is it just an interesting
just
statistic, or who knows?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just do the day-to-day stuff. I'm just relaying this important information for our viewers.
This is very important information. I've learned.
I don't do climate forecasting, other than we know it's warming, but that's it.
Right. Yeah. There's that part.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, nothing yet to portray that or to imply that we're going to have an extra warm summer just because it's going to be warmer.
No, not for now. I mean, but just climatologically, we've just been seeing the summers warming up in general. I mean, you've seen it. You've been here, so it's been interesting because that's the one season with our warming climate. That's the one season that really sticks out. The other seasons we haven't had seen too dramatic of changes up or down.
That is the one thing if you're saying it's going to be a mild winter, because now all I ever think about, I didn't used to have this necessarily in my mind, is just like how much water are we going to get? What's that going to mean for forest fires? You know, are we going to have more fires coming up?
Oh, actually, one point on that, since you brought up fires, the big determiner for forest fires in the summertime is the weather that actually occurs during the summertime, not necessarily what leads up to it. We can have a soaking wet May and early June, and then we get, really hot, one of our hottest ever Julys and August, and all of a sudden everything's just burning up because it matters what happens then. I've seen some fire seasons where it was really dry in the spring and we're thinking, oh gosh, it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
And then the summers are kind of like, we every 2 weeks we get a little trough that brings in a shower or two over the mountains, and it just kind of tamps things down. Maybe not a cold summer, but it was just kind of average, and then the fire season wasn't so bad. So it's really about what happens during the fire season. You get a heat wave, and then thunderstorms over the mountains, and then another heat wave following. Oh, that's the worst, because then you've got some strikes ready to go, and then the heat comes back.
And it's just tinder waiting to go.
Or some, I should say, some what's the word when you get the lightning strikes? The holdover fires that are just sitting there waiting to go when it gets hot again.
Oh yeah, they're just already smoldering basically.
Strikes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we don't have that this summer too. Actually, funny enough, tomorrow at 1 p.m. on Fox 12 Now, I'm going to be talking to the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife about fires and stuff that they're,
that should be good.
Yeah, some good, recommendations about what to do, what not to do. There's the no-brainer stuff, but just reminding people. And then I guess we have an exchange too with Alberta, and there's a fire
That's
up
right.
there.
They're having fires up there because they get dry springs often, and this is extra dry this spring. That won't help them. That big high pressure that's giving us the heat this weekend, they've got it even worse than us.
Oh man, really? That's not good
for them.
Not good for them.
Yeah.
Oh, dang. Yeah, because I guess some Oregon firefighters are up there helping out Alberta. And
that's right. I did hear about that. That'll be interesting. So tune in, folks. That's your promo right there.
There it is. 1 p.m. tomorrow.
Teaser.
Tune in for that. Well, Mark, as always, pleasure to talk to you. Learn more about the weather. Find out what's going on. So some thunderstorms if you're over on the east side, maybe later
we'll
today.
be tracking them here in 40 minutes on the show. So.
Yep. So there you go. Tune in there for the latest information. Mark Nelson, as always, good to talk to you.
See ya.
All right. And thanks to everybody too for joining in. You know what? I even did this. I made a lower third. Just to, I'm just going to show you right now since we're showing off the desk here. There we go. That's tomorrow on the show. So coming up tomorrow, so that'll be at 1 p.m. So one thing you can always depend on with Fox 12 Now is we'll be going live at 1 p.m. So you can watch our noon show with Mia, and then flip right over here to me, and I'll be here bringing you, in-depth interviews, topics that you may not get to hear about a lot about, or perhaps our reporters have some more details that they can really go into, and also I can answer your questions if you have questions on things. So you can send me an email to fox12now@kptv.com. That is one way to get a hold of me. Oh yeah, and the other thing, sorry, pointing at my lower third there. So we're gonna be talking about fire safety at 1, and then at 1:30 we're talking about bats. Yes, this was so interesting. I really wanted to bring this group on. So it's a group that is actually out there trying to listen for bats, and it's for good reasons, for conservation purposes, and you can get involved with it, and it actually kind of sounds like a pretty fun activity to do if you're out camping or something like that to help them out. So we're actually going to be talking about that tomorrow, so you can join in for that as well. As always, appreciate all of you watching us wherever you're finding us. Let other people know about it, whether that's on our apps. Good thing to do, download the Fox 12 Oregon app wherever you get apps, and you can follow along with us on YouTube as well. And I will be back here tomorrow at 1 p.m. and I'll talk to you then with more.